Law office, this is Jesse. How can I help you?
One moment. I gotta turn off the phone. I need to speak with a Robert Harvoy. We were supposed to meet today.
Okay, he left lunch. Could I take a message and have him call you back?
Do you know what time he's gonna be done with lunch?
He gets back at 1 o'clock.
All right. Is it right if I call back at 1?
Yep, that would be fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It needs to be addressed how inappropriate it is to take advantage of someone who has to live off of $9,800 a year. The police and courts have taken complete advantage of this, so have the Bollingers. Because of the incompetency of police, intentional negligence of police, and their attempts to frame me for a murder that I didn't commit, I am unsafe everywhere that I go. They refuse to address this and then want to do this competency bullshit. Obviously, I am not capable. That does not mean incompetent. Big difference. So, for the next hour and 15 minutes, I'm not going to be going anywhere. This is the closest that I have to a safe place. Because I didn't have the money for a civil lawyer, and because people like Lauren Nelson didn't give a fuck how I was being treated, I've been through years of this. Years of this. The police and the courts in Colorado screwed up big. They did everything that they could to prevent me from having the money to go to all of these court dates by repeatedly having me go places where nobody fucking showed up. Every time I tried to turn in the cops, they questioned my fucking competency as an excuse not to listen to a goddamn thing I have to say. I can't possibly do this by the next court date. There is no way in fucking hell. I've been constantly on the move from one fucking noisy goddamn environment to another for the last 4 fucking years. Temporary this and temporary that. See, the thing with trying to get me the help that I need in person, me and the lady who I'm not supposed to mention have been trying to get that since well before the incident up there at low income. Obviously, the situation with the state patrol and the restricted number, which I've spoken about repeatedly. How am I supposed to tell the state patrol from my predators when they are calling from the exact same fucking number? What number is that? It's called restricted. They say change my number. I have to keep the old number because there are people that I need to be able to wait on them to call. You have no idea how many people have said, "Hey, Sean, I called you." They're calling an old phone number. I have sent these people my new phone number and they still call from the old phone number. This is an issue that Brenda Dickinson had with me as well. That is just one of many things that she could have spoken up about. But no, she wanted to text message me knowing that makes it 100 times more fucking complicated than it needs to be. Technically, I am incompetent. That's why I need help with the technical stuff. With technical shit, I am incompetent. However, those doctors are not going to look at the fucking evidence. They're going to do what the courts want of them. If the police take me in, they will do as the police want. We'll call Jones again.
Sorry, Gina Jones is not available. Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Hello, Miss Jones. I need you to call me back. There are situations that need to be addressed, and there are a lot of concerns around the police that I need to discuss with you. As far as meeting you tomorrow, I would like to be able to do that, but at the same time, I need this evidence and I need help with it. Your protocols, that's the term that I should have used. Your protocols screw people who are poor. Somebody who has to live on $9,800 a year and has to spend $40,000 in 4 years on jumping from place to place to place to place to comply with the courts, and who had to spend an entire year without that because they didn't have the help that they needed. Ma'am, I can't do this by myself. It is not possible. This is cruel and unusual punishment. Now, there are situations that officers with the Nebraska State Patrol spoke about to me, and I do have them recorded. And I need those things to be addressed. This should not be as complicated as it is. Now, when I said your rules, that's because I was frustrated and the words didn't come out right. That is part of sensory processing issues. The more frustrated I am, the less my words are going to come together. And every officer has preyed on that. That's why there needs to be somebody there in person. Now, as far as Kara's number, I don't have it. It's in a phone that's locked. I've been looking for her business card and I can't find it. There is literally too much to go through. Please call me back.
Press pound or hang up to play it.
Now let's try to remain calm, right? I found a SanDisk SD card and it says for transferring photos and media, but I don't know how to use that. That's the thing, is that I am technologically inept. That much is 100% for certain. That's the problem with them telling me to do this stuff online. If I had help doing it online, I could, but I need help in person. See, people can't see the problems that I'm having, so they want to argue with me. They want to argue with me about the problems that I'm having. If they could see them with their own two eyes, they would understand. But the protocol of these guys makes it impossible. Because I don't have the money for a civil attorney. And because I have had to repeatedly bail myself out. All of my money is always gone. Always. I have to spend it to move from place to place to place. And this needs to be reviewed. These people need to work together to help me instead of harm me for trying to get the help that I need. We're going to make another phone call. And if they try to verify my phone number, well, you guys got to hear on the recording yesterday, Holloway has my number. It's saved in his phone. It is saved in his work phone. By the way, I am freezing. There's two dinky heaters in here, and one of them started smoking earlier, so it's not plugged in. I'm assuming it's the fan because the fan wasn't running. Yes! I downloaded my contacts list. Let's see. That was a stroke of good fortune.
Bye, you've reached Dennis and Brenda. Please leave a message at the beep. Thank you. The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
Goodbye. This is William Barr.
Hello.
Hey, Will, it's Sean Schwartz. Kind of expected that. James Golden.
The number you dialed has been changed, disconnected, or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error,
What do you expect after years? That's why this needed to be taken care of quick, fast, and in a hurry. Oh, this one.
hi, you reached Joanna's cell phone. I'm not able to get the phone right now, but if you leave a message, I will return your call as promptly as possible. Thank you for giving me a call. Have a wonderful day. Bye. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, JoJo, it's Sean Schwartz. I still need your help. I'm not asking you to lie. I'm not asking you to do anything other than tell the truth. I will call you back later if you don't call me back. Thank you. Bye. These are all people that I care about a lot.
Hello?
Hey, is this Anna?
This is.
This is Sean Schwartz.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Not very good.
What's going on?
I'm still dealing with the same stuff that I've been dealing with the last 4 years. Do what? Hello? Hello?
Did you get a place to stay?
No, ma'am. Just temporary places that are very loud. They keep trying to call my question or question my competency. I need help stopping abuse, and they keep telling me that that's not their issue, that's not their problem. There's also the fact that
What kind of abuse is going on?
well, still a lot of stuff over the death of Natalie Bollinger. There's also the fact that you remember when Danny died behind your store?
I sure do.
Yeah, well, the officer who covered that up, his name is Officer Gerhardt. The police knew that was back there, not breathing and unresponsive before 6:00 a.m. They didn't report.
Really?
They did.
I didn't realize that.
Well, that's the thing is that, he's with the professional standards unit. He's the one that I had to talk to when I tried to turn in their officers. Did you look up the Whale and Lolatai situation?
No.
Are you familiar with it?
No.
Whalen Lolatai is the officer who assaulted me after Natalie was killed. They were trying to frame me for her murder and figured that since they didn't have anything on me, that assaulting me and charging me with felony assault was an okay thing to do. Well, they weren't able to frame me for that, so they had to eventually drop the charges, but not before they ate up all of my money, and I'm on a fixed income. It's cost over $40,000 for me to jump from place to place to place, trying to jump through their hoops to begin with, and then eventually trying to get a safe place. But
Yeah.
I've lost every friend I have. They didn't come forward, Also, a lot of the stuff that I had to deal with, like, they said that nobody was willing to help me, probably because of the way that I act. But the thing is that you were trying to help me.
Mm-hmm.
Kinga was trying to help me. A lot of people were trying to help me, just people weren't able to go in with me and speak up. Now, I had to go to Facebook and YouTube and explain why people couldn't, because they were apparently not able to understand. There's also the fact that I still don't know who to go to. I mean, every time I call a number, they tell me to call another number that tells me to call another number. I've called the FBI because actually, I've called the FBI in multiple states because I've had to deal with this in multiple states. The way that the police treat homeless nationwide is abhorrent.
It is. Yeah, it's true.
I just wish more people would speak up about that publicly,
Yeah.
And then there's the fact that they keep trying to force drugs into me that literally make people crazy. Like when they put ketamine in me, that gives people amnesia.
I mean, it can also, I know one of my friends who did ketamine therapy who was, suicidal, and she said it helped her a lot. So I think it does help some people.
It does.
It not have worked out really well for you, but I know ketamine does help some people.
Well, they injected me with a lot of it. I'm surprised that it didn't kill me. That was in Avista Hospital in Boulder County. Boulder County is about the rottenest place that I can think of.
Where are you now?
I'm in Chapel, Nebraska, where I am also unsafe.
I mean, Sean, just for your own mental health purposes, have you thought about just moving on from this and, trying to, Natalie's death and whatnot?
It's not just Natalie's death. It's the fact that I continue to take abuse, ma'am. That's what happens when you have your name slandered like this. It doesn't stop. They have kept me tied up in the courts since Natalie died. Like, how do you move on when they keep you tied up in courts and keep your money tied up in the courts?
What do they have you tied up in the courts now?
Right now, it's with Larimer County over the assault at Clearview. Clearview has been closed down for doing those things to other people, but I still get treated like I'm crazy for saying it. And I spoke up about it over a year before they killed Tibor Hatay there.
Yeah.
But I don't have a vehicle. All of my money goes to paying the courts, literally paying my predators. They've done everything that they can to prevent me from going to my court dates, both physically and financially. And I'm tired of being assaulted by police officers. I'm tired of them harming me for trying to get the help that I need. Here in Western Nebraska, there's crap for services.
Yeah, they just don't have very many there.
Exactly. Well, any. There's so much in between. Like, in order for me to go to Sydney to get help, I have to have transportation. But then I have so much going through my mind at every point in time that I can't remember names and phone numbers. I have to document it, and oh my God, I might puke. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're okay.
But people just didn't come forward. Like the situation with Kinga, I didn't want to have to put her on blast. She's not a bad person, not even close. But she was also aware of a lot of the stuff that was going on, and I really needed her to listen to me instead of telling me to go to people that I'd tried already, like Darren O'Connor. Her suggestion for me was to go to Darren O'Connor, and this is like 8 months after he pulled some screwed up stuff. There's a lot of people in the homeless community that are really mad at him right now because of the things that he's pulled, and I'm one of them.
Who's Darren O'Connor?
He's an attorney. He was trying to become an attorney while I was in Boulder, but he was finally able to get and pass his bar exam. So now he's an actual attorney. But I keep trying to get people to actually look at the evidence, but they treat me like I'm crazy. Like there are literally 22 people who are dead because I wasn't heard when I tried to speak up, and all it would have taken was one person. The thing that actually got the investigation started against Clearview is that one of the people that was locked up there, their family called in and actually did something, and that's literally what I needed. But with all of my money eaten up and tied up in the courts, and everybody thinking that it was just going to blow over, like it hasn't blowed over, and that's everybody's assumption.
So what are you in court for now? What's the situation?
The situation with Larimer County is the same thing with Clearview. It's that they assaulted me after injecting me with drugs that are, well, I have adverse reactions, and I told them that. I needed a police officer there. The police, when you try to turn them in, their standard protocol is to send you to a nuthatch. And that's why I needed somebody there in person. I needed someone there in person to turn in my predators before Natalie was killed. And, there's the people that I was the closest to were the people that I called first, the people that I thought would help, but they never spoke up. By the time I was speaking with you, I was overwhelmed with trying to get, people like Kinga to speak up.
I mean, but it sounds like you weren't. I mean, so are they prosecuting you because you fought the police back? You fought them back? Is that what's going on?
No, I didn't fight them back. That's the thing, is that I had to go in by myself, and all they have to do is either turn off their body cameras or just continually keep me tied up in the courts so that I don't have the money or the ability to be able to get myself a civil lawyer to go after them. And all they have to do is keep that up until the statute of limitations is over.
Well, don't they have to provide you with a lawyer?
Well, that's the thing, is that a public pretender is not going to do anything about a civil case.
So is this a civil case that they brought against you or that you brought against them?
It's civil and criminal, and I haven't been able to bring anything against anybody because they always question my competency. That is the first thing they do when you try to turn in a cop. Oh, he's trying to turn in a cop. He must be crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's, kind of the dystopian nightmare that we live in. Have you thought about contacting, like, Black Lives Matter?
I have tried. I don't even know where to find a contact number. I've been trying.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the contact number for them would be either, but it sounds like, if you're trying to get justice against a cop, that might be a good avenue. I know that that's one of their kind of specialties.
Yes, but specifically if you're black. That's what a lot of people are having issues with as far as the laws that they're trying to pass in different places, is that, like here in Nebraska, for example, they're trying to write it into law that, people of color is the way that they're writing it down. People of color are supposed to get, God, I should look it up, but everything is running so slow right now. But it's in all of this, they leave out the disabled and they leave out the homeless. And the homeless are the most abused people in the country.
Yeah, I imagine that is probably true.
There are more hate crimes against the homeless than all other hate crimes combined times 5. And that's not including police interaction. And when you go in as a homeless person to try to turn in the police, it's always the same. You're either blown off, you're assaulted, or you are sent to a nuthatch every time without fail.
Yeah.
Their idea of helping you when you are bullied to the point that you want your life to end is to, I'll give you an example here. They ship me from here in Chapel, Nebraska to over 100 miles away to Scotts Bluff, and then I have to find my own way back. Now, also, there's the fact that I keep getting harassing phone calls. I have to be selective about who I give my number out to, because there's somebody that I know that's giving it out. It eventually got to the point where I had to change phones, and then I had to change it again. I'm on phone number 9 since Natalie and I had our issue in Virginia.
Who's calling you and harassing you?
I can't tell. They're calling from restricted numbers. And the problem is that most of the places that I've been waiting on phone calls back, like the Nebraska State Patrol, they were supposed to get a hold of me 3 years ago about the situation here in Chapel, Nebraska with the officers here. And the officer who's, I guess, in charge is Officer Jones of the Nebraska State Patrol Troop E. I don't know if there's any way that you could call her up and explain who I used to be before all this, because I was not like this.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with Kinga is that I love her a lot, but I needed her to speak up. There's a lot of people that their reason for not coming forward was that they had to fear for their families. And I have so many people that I have recordings of that of, but I don't want to post it up on the internet because it's got too much personal information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if somebody's afraid for their child's life, I don't want to create a further issue with that, but I do want them to be able to safely speak up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is like no person is individually going to take down, an entire group of law enforcement, or is individually, I think that's part of the reason that I mentioned Black Lives Matter is like that's kind of like a movement type of thing. That's a thing where you need to, start a political movement. I don't think there's any individual that can call the FBI or, call the police force and make everything magically disappear, or, it's going to fix the whole situation. It's just, if this is a systematic injustice, and it's going to take a systematic response. It's not about if one individual person will call it. That's just not the situation that needs to happen to fix some sort of systematic injustice. It has to be a systematic solution as well.
Exactly, and that's what I'm fighting for. I mean, I can't just continue to take this abuse forever, and they keep tying me up in courts and making every excuse not to listen to me. Meanwhile, they tell me that the things that I'm trying to get them to do for me, they're not allowed to. But they did those things for my predators. They did those things for the Bollinger family. For them to ship me out of jurisdiction over and over and over and over every time I try to turn in a police officer, like what I needed was somebody to go in with me. When Natalie died, I just needed someone to go in with me so I could safely make a report. And that was the situation beforehand, too. I mean, there are so many people that I got a hold of, and they just wanted to tell me the pretty words, like, you just need to love yourself, or you just need to let it go. You don't get to. Let me give you an example of being able to let it go. If I was beaten up 20 years ago and I'm still having issues with it, that's something that, yeah, I need to let go. But when it's something where I am continually being beaten still to this day, it's not something that you can let go. You're still being beaten.
So what is it going to take for them to drop these court cases?
It's going to take a lot of people who are witnesses to step forward and say, hey, this isn't right. I mean, for me, they call me mentally ill and nobody listens to me. That's why I need someone to speak for me. I've been trying to find an advocate in person, but Western Nebraska, there's nothing, and in Colorado, it's unsafe for me to even go there. There's a lot of people that I care about. There's all of the positive people that I used to go see and hang out with, like Kinga. She doesn't understand that I can't see her because she didn't speak up. And she was one of the positive people in my life. You were one of the positive people in my life. Hell, I used to go over there and listen to Pash make jokes,
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't talked to Pash in a long time.
Well, the thing is that the media and all of these web sleuth groups, like I've literally found Natalie's story in 7 different languages, but they keep regurgitating the same BS, and it is BS. Like I didn't have the ability to even go to court. I can barely function. And then they want me to do this stuff across the internet, and there's just too much of it. Plus the fact that sensory processing issues mean that if there's extraneous noise, I can't concentrate. If there's 2 people talking at once, I can't concentrate. If somebody asks me a question and it may take me a minute to answer, and they're impatient about that, I can't turn off autism because it suits them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, what is it that Natalie is dead and her killer has been found.
I'm aware of that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What else is there to do with that situation? Like, where else is there to go?
Well, all the stuff that I'm dealing with now is, you remember, like between when she died and when they found her killer, I had to deal with Waylon Lolatai, and he assaulted 6 more people in 2018. He was let go in September of last year for assaulting people. Oh,
well, that's positive.
It is positive, but I'm not allowed to bring that up in court. And then Clearview, they sent me there after I was in a Vista hospital, because I tried for a whole month to get people to actually help. I tried getting a hold of Kinga. I tried getting a hold of everybody who was actually involved, everybody who I had called for help before Natalie died. Kinga sent me $100 so that I could come up here and see my therapist, Nicole Peralta, and I told those stories. I told those stories because they were true. And the thing is that by them calling me mentally ill, nobody was going to listen to me. And I had to deal with a lot of harassment, people trying to destroy my Facebook. To this day, I have to deal with it. And people think that it was just going to go away if I shut up. And that's not the case. Some of the police officers that I had to deal with literally killed people.
Yeah.
2 of them.
So is that what you're in court about now? Is the police officers?
The court that I have here in Nebraska is over an assault by officers that I was trying to turn in back in December, and they're not going to allow me to explain the situation, and they want to question my competency, which is really a screwed up situation, because honestly, I'm not technically competent. I can't do any of this technical stuff. I have 3 computers surrounding me, and I can't carry them. I don't have a safe place to take them. The place that I'm at now, the guy who owns the place is at risk just because I'm here. Because of the situation with Natalie, and the fact that I was never allowed to defend myself in court or in the media, they did everything that they could to force me into homelessness and threaten, harass, and intimidate the people who were trying to help me. And a lot of them won't come forward because they're scared. And I got pissed off.
You've been exonerated.
Do what?
You've been exonerated from that.
I haven't been. I haven't been exonerated of See, that's the thing, is that everybody thinks that the murder of Natalie is the only thing. No, they have had me tied up in court with Clearview for 3 years. I literally had to leave the state of Colorado for my own safety because of the things that the courts and the police and the jails were doing. When you were Waylon Lolatai, he assaulted me, and then I was charged with assault. When you're charged with assault against a police officer, police are not nice to you. They don't listen to you. That's why I needed somebody to go in with me. I'd been trying to get someone to go in with me before Natalie was killed. The only reason that I wasn't in Colorado or in Boulder to go see my loved ones, and the reason that I got a place here in Chapel, Nebraska, where I've never liked it here. I've tried to get along with these folks, and some of them have been reasonably nice to me, but if I'm attacked, threatened, assaulted, I'm disabled. I can't defend myself. If I do, it's their word versus mine. And I needed that to not be a thing. Now they have laws in the state of Colorado where they have to have their body camera on, but that doesn't make any difference if I don't have the money for a civil lawyer. Cops cover for cops.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So are you suing the cops? Is that what's going on, or what's the?
I can't sue them. I don't have the money. That's the thing, is that every time that I try to turn them in for the crimes that they committed, because I don't have the money for a lawyer, I don't have the money for a civil lawyer to actually get a case against them. And then there's the fact that I can't function when I'm moving from place to place to place to place, and then everything that I'm supposed to do costs money that I don't have. So they keep charging me with crimes. And then there's the fact that I literally, after all of that happened, I literally had to break the law to try to get the police to take a look at what was going on. The police coordinated and conspired across multiple counties to prevent me from being able to have a day in court and to prevent me from being able to defend myself. And that's the thing that makes this impossible, is that the one chance that I had at cutting this off without having to break the law was, at least after Natalie died, was the first few days. By the time that I was assaulted by Waylon Lolatai, they had me tied up, and when they were certain that that probably wasn't going to hold, they made sure to ship me out of jurisdiction. When I was in Avista Hospital, they injected me with ketamine and Ativan and Benadryl, and I get harassed, threatened, and assaulted no matter where I go. One of these web sleuth groups, it's called the guy's name is Rob Gavigan. He's got 3 million subscribers. Another one of these guys, he's got what's the name of it? Sword and Scale, Mike Boudet. He's got 3.5 million subscribers. When you're talking about 3.5 million people in the United States, that means 1 in every 100 people knows who I am. There's no safety.
Plus, is that still about Natalie, or what's that about?
It's all about the frame job with Natalie. They were trying to frame me for Natalie's murder. That's what the situation with Waylon Lolatai was, and that's why they wouldn't allow the body cameras into court, and they actually dropped the charges because they didn't want those body cameras being entered in as evidence. And then at Clearview, they had a better frame job. The thing is, they were trying to do whatever it took to try to frame me as a mentally deranged, friggin' violent person. And when I told them not to put those drugs in me because they will make me violent, that's exactly what they pushed for. The only way.
What's going on now? Obviously, it sounds like, that stuff with Natalie has been done with, right? So
it's not done with. That's the thing, is that her friends and family have continued their reign of terror on me. And I'm not allowed to show that in court. I'm not allowed to speak about it. And if I do, then I get in trouble. I'm a bad person for speaking out about my abusers. They were allowed to have court without me by incarcerating me for trying to turn them in. When it got to the point where I literally had to break the law to try to get someone to look at it, I'd already reached out to everybody. And, people are telling me all these reasons that they couldn't, and those are things they should have told the police.
So now you're like, what's going on is that people are still harassing you about Natalie?
Well, here's the thing. Before Natalie was killed, the way that the situation happened is that Natalie was having issues with a lot of people in Colorado because she was addicted to heroin and she was trying to get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she was going to visit me on her way to Virginia because she didn't want to leave without seeing me. And she explained to me also that the only reason that she was staying in Colorado was because I was there and I promised her I would be back in 2 weeks. And I didn't keep that promise. And that kills me to this day. As a result of that, she had to flee to Virginia to get away from these people. And she wouldn't get on the plane unless I promised that I would go visit her in Virginia. The problem is that my technical ineptitude has prevented me, and so the sensory overload and it shutting me down, it prevents me from doing the things that I need to do. Now, the situation was that when I left Virginia, my vehicle was stuck in the road. It was broken. The problem that I was having with it, one of the problems that I was having with it was pre-existing. They're the people that I bought the vehicle from, David and Laura Nelson here in Chapel, Nebraska. They were aware of that. They also helped me to set up the trip to go to Nebraska, but they never spoke up. And they never spoke up about the issue with the vehicle. When I was in Virginia and my vehicle was stuck in the middle of the road outside of their house, like I didn't want to be stuck there. And I didn't want to get careened by a family of 6 coming around the corner because even though it's not like a 90-degree corner, it's still a pretty quick corner, and it's a 2-lane highway each way, and I was literally stuck between 2 road cones, not like regular road cones, but the big orange barrels.
Yeah, but so I mean, has none of that been closed? Hasn't all that been? Isn't that a closed case now?
That's the problem, is that it was never a case. See, they made a bunch of false claims there. They claimed that I threatened their family, which didn't happen. They also claimed that I was arrested, which also didn't happen. I was taken to the hospital because I was dehydrated, and Natalie and Alicia both knew that I was dehydrated. But instead, they were embarrassed because on my birthday, they got busted with heroin. Natalie's mom found her heroin while we were out at Elliott's coffee grounds, and they were trying to pretend that I stalked them out there, and I didn't. Natalie called me. I was 2 months late getting out there because I had to earn the money to go. And David and Laura Nelson helped me to earn the money to go. And the same thing with Dennis and Brenda Dickinson here in town. But they never spoke up. They just let these people do whatever they wanted to. And I had a safety network set up, and I have all the evidence that I need to show it. The problem is that I can't process. I am in a constant state of panic. And people don't get that I can't just be able to do the things that they want while I am in a constant state of panic. And I am stuck in a constant state of panic because I have to be afraid of both the police and the public. Here in Chapel, Nebraska, they have Denver news. Natalie's death was all over the news. Now, when I left Virginia, I should go back to before I went to Virginia. Natalie called me. I was 2 months late getting there, and she said if I wasn't already on the way, she was going to kill herself. And then she ran her car into a tree that very day. And so I went there, and I have evidence that, while she was claiming that I stalked her, all of the things that we did, it was her idea or her sister's idea. It's not like I made them do it or I twisted their arm,
Mm-hmm.
There's also a lot of other witnesses, and they didn't want to come forward. They didn't want to be targeted by the public either, and I get that. There's you remember, I'm not sure if you remember Sarah Rubiolo. She was one of the girls on a missing persons poster I helped to find.
I do not remember her.
Well, that's all right. I didn't know where Natalie was when she disappeared, and it was after an entire year of people like her ex-boyfriend Tim Beeson, who was very abusive to her, threatening to kill me, and I couldn't go to anybody, no matter what. Everywhere that I went, it was the wrong jurisdiction, wrong jurisdiction, wrong jurisdiction. And then people kept on telling me, hey, if these people are doing this to you, you need to block them. And I was blocking them. The problem is that they had my phone number and they were calling that too. And I don't have any proof, without those phones, and they were all lost or stolen for the most part. And there was a lot of evidence in there. Like, I wouldn't have needed Kinga if that phone hadn't been stolen. But at the same time, I was trying to show the police that, and they wouldn't look at any of it. They wouldn't look at any of the abuse that I was enduring at the hands of the Bollingers or the public afterwards. Then there's the fact.
What could Kinga have possibly, done for you in this situation, right? I mean, you're talking about needing witnesses. People didn't witness any of this stuff. Like, they might know you and be able to, testify that you're a reliable source. But other than that, there's just not too much that, like, I mean, realistically, what could Kinga have done?
The courts tried to pretend that I was a liar and that I was making all of this up. The thing is that Kinga sent me $100 before Natalie died so I could come up here and see my therapist. I'm not asking her to tell the truth about a bunch of stuff she wasn't there for, because that's not the truth. But the truth is, she did send me that $100, and it was to go see my therapist. And I thanked her for it. I was thankful for it. But at the same time, no matter what it is that I said, and I told all true stories, but no matter what I said, people called me a liar and continued to harm me for it. I mean, this has continued for 4 years. All I needed was for people to come forward at the very beginning. And the other thing is, I needed someone to go in with me so that I could make a report to the police safely. When you're a homeless person, you don't get to make a police report.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. What did your therapist have to say about all this?
My therapist, well, she did try to help me. She tried to go to the Sydney Police Department about it, but she also never spoke up. And I have to get a subpoena to get her to go to court. All of these people do. But then again, they're across multiple jurisdictions. And that's the thing, is that I did go to a lot of people about this issue before Natalie died, but I have to subpoena them in court. And in order to do that, I have to be able to afford a civil lawyer. And I just can't. That's how they screw me over, is by making sure that I don't have the money to do anything, not even take care of myself. I have to depend on the decency of others, and there's a lot of decent people. The problem is that most of the places that I've stayed, like, you remember when I called you from Virginia?
I do.
Yeah, I was with some meth heads who were constantly screaming at each other. And although, Brett Roloff, he's the guy that I was staying with, he was gonna help me to go and make a report to the police, because people were threatening my life across the nation. And in Virginia, that's where Natalie's family and a lot of their friends were threatening my life from. As far as a lot of them go.
You?
Do what?
Are they still threatening you?
No, ma'am. They got to have court without me, so they magically won, and I'm not allowed to speak about it. They took away my First Amendment right to speak out about my predators by having court without me.
Well, it sounds like a positive thing that they're not threatening you anymore.
The problem is that my reputation and all of this court stuff is all intertwined with that, and I continue to take abuse to this day. Like, I'm in Chapel, Nebraska. I didn't want to come back here. I came back here because there were people that I had gone to for help, like Brenda Dickinson and people like that, that when I came here, I knew it was unsafe, but I came here for a funeral of Rory Jepson, who was also a witness to a lot of the situation. And when Rory died, I mean, there was a situation in South Dakota where the lady that I was staying with, she was playing, and she was playing two guys at the same time, and I needed help. I've called almost everybody that there is to call, and people keep giving me the suggestion that I call someplace that I've called hundreds of times already. It's at the point where I literally have a severe panic attack or even a meltdown just thinking about calling these places alone. And that's the thing, is that I always have to do it alone. People have all these suggestions that don't work when you are homeless and disabled, especially if you're a male. And I keep trying to explain that to them, and they keep telling me that I got to do this alone. I don't have a family that helps me out, and most of my family are druggies and child molesters. I mean, how am I going to get help from people like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what's the downside to letting this court stuff go and the stuff with Natalie go?
How do you let it go? That's the thing, ma'am, is that I can't let it go. They have me tied up in court, not the other way around. I haven't gotten to bring charges against any of my predators. My predators have done everything in their power to prevent that, and that includes the police.
When's your next court date?
My next court date is February 18th.
And so is that for...
That's here in Chapel, Nebraska, over an assault by the police. That's the thing, is that I continually have to go to the police by myself about any of the threats, harassment, or assaults that I endure. And the thing is, I have to go to police officers who have repeatedly in the past threatened, harassed, and assaulted me. So, but then I call the people that I'm supposed to in order to do something about it, and they tell me I have to go to the local police department. The local police department is corrupt. They're trying to hide the wrongdoing of their other officers.
Yeah.
But then
yeah,
there's
I
the
hear
fact.
you. I mean, but once again, this is like a big systematic thing. So I just don't know. I mean, I know it's a really difficult position to be in, but at the same time, it's like, what is anybody really supposed to do? I mean, as far as if the entire police force is corrupt, which it seems like it is based off of everything that I know about it, I mean, what do you do about that besides just starting an all-out revolution in America? I mean,
That's scary. I don't want anyone to die.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. I'm just saying, I don't see a whole lot of options here for what there actually is to do about that.
Well, that's another thing. Like, the police use the media in order to make me a target, in order to make me look like some sort of crazy, violent person before they found Natalie's killer. And people have not let go of that since. Here in Chapel, Nebraska, they have Denver News, and people keep saying, I need to move on, I need to move on. I've moved over 40 times since Natalie died.
Right, but you haven't stopped, talking about it or focusing on it or making it a big part of your life, which I think is what people probably mean.
The problem is that it's every part of my life. I am not capable of moving beyond it because of all of my money being caught up in the courts.
And, with your lawyer, there's no way to get any of that dropped?
That's the thing, is that my lawyers aren't listening to me. They're not. There's a lot of issues here. People aren't understanding that there is a difference between criminal court and civil court. And in order for me to take these officers to court for the things that they did illegally, to try to frame me for crimes I didn't commit, I've been charged in criminal court. So they get to arrest me and assault me immediately. And it takes me years, if I have the money, it takes years of being tied up in court. And that would have been, that needed to be started years ago. And that would have taken people speaking up. That would have taken people admitting that the stories that I was telling were true.
I mean, who was there besides the cops?
That's the point exactly.
Yeah,
is that somebody needed to be there other than the cops. That's why before Natalie died, I was trying to get help in person so that I could turn these things in, because every time I got blown off.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's in court. Talking about what somebody else has said is considered hearsay. It's just not allowed.
It is allowed. It was allowed in every one of my court dates. Every one of them. That's the thing, is that whether or not it's legal didn't stop them from doing it. And in order to get a professional review of it, somebody needed to speak up. Also, the thing is that the place that I'm at right now, it's temporary. It's snowing outside. I have degenerative disc disease. My legs are screwed up, and I got 3 computers and 2 bags full of evidence. All of my computers are full of evidence. My phones are full of evidence. They're so full that I can't take screenshots. I can't take pictures. I can't nothing. Then there's the fact that a man that I have repeatedly tried to turn into the police, who is a registered sex offender here in Chapel, Nebraska, he assaulted me like 3 days ago, slapped my phone right out of my hand. My phone is broken. I can't get in there to get any of the text messages or any of the evidence in it. And I video recorded the assault. The problem is that my phone's broken, and it's going to cost me money that I don't have to get it fixed so that I can have access to that evidence.
What does the FBI say about all of this stuff?
The FBI won't do anything unless other people speak up. They have to be basically pressured to do their job. And the fact is that they did everything. This is a really complicated situation, but there have literally been thousands of crimes committed against me, and I have to be afraid to go to the police.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't turn in any of the crimes against me, and as a result, when I have a meltdown over not being able to turn in these crimes, and mind you, I have tried to turn them into the cops by myself. That's what resulted in me repeatedly being assaulted and repeatedly being sent out of jurisdiction and literally having to find my own way home. They keep trying to peg me as mentally ill and use it loosely to pretend that I'm schizophrenic. Now, why the hell would they drive somebody who is schizophrenic all the way to Scotts Bluff and then drop them off after less than 20 hours on an emergency hold?
Because they're shitty cops?
That's right. And then the hospitals do what it is that the cops want. They don't listen to me. And whatever they write down on their pieces of paper is what the courts are going to go by. They're not going to bother to look at the situation surrounding it. Like I was telling on cops. That doesn't make me crazy. But then again, the 2 cops here that I was trying to turn in, Cody Selhorst and Jared Hahn, who had repeatedly tried to run me out of town by that point, I had to call Region 1, and Jen Beebe came down. She was supposed to be my caseworker, but she wasn't listening to me. And there is so much complications to this. It's going to take about 4 months of me being left alone in a safe environment for me to sit down and actually work all of this out. And they're not going to allow that. That's how they keep me in the sensory processing issues, is by continually tying me up in court. Tying me up and it got to the point where I literally had to break the law to try to get someone to look, because nobody had gone in with me. And I had plenty of people who said that they would, but they hadn't kept their word. And as a result, the police got to slander me in court, and so did my predators.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I'm just not really sure what, I mean, especially if somebody hasn't been there, and you're not allowed to testify about hearsay now.
But they are. They allowed hearsay in my court dates, and that's the thing, is that I can prove that these people lied in my court dates, but I'm not allowed to show that. I was literally tortured in the jails repeatedly, and I have witness statements to that too. The thing is that I need people to speak up and admit that I'm not schizophrenic and say, hey, man, you guys need to stop this. You need to listen to what he has to say. He has been harmed repeatedly. He does have evidence, and his sensory processing issues are not his fault.
Have you asked your therapist to testify on your behalf? Because the only person who's going to convince a jury or convince a judge that you're not schizophrenic is a professional.
But that's the thing, is that's not exactly how it is. If I can get 3 people to sign a piece of paper that says I'm not schizophrenic, who have known me 5 years or more, between that and an autistic person who is in a state of crisis, who's just thrown into a mental institution by 2 officers who he has literally has documentation that he's attempted to turn in prior to that, like that does make a big difference.
I mean, I don't think that the court would recognize anything other than a professional to testify on, a professional issue, right? Like whether or not you have a certain disorder is completely up to a professional. Like, I could say like I'm depressed, but unless I actually get a diagnosis from a professional, no one would treat me for depression. That's just how it is. That's why I'm wondering,
Right, but I'm not trying to get treatment. I'm trying to show in court. There's a lot of people who have known me for a lot of years that know that I'm not schizophrenic. I've never shown any signs of schizophrenia. But the thing is, when I'm in a state of crisis and the police are telling the nuthatches what they want from the nuthatches and the nuthatches outright give it to them, I mean, that's not okay. I needed somebody from the very beginning on my side, and that would have prevented all of this. But now I try to get a hold of the people that should have come forward, and they screwed up big. So now they're afraid to come forward. The other thing is that I can't make it to my therapist. Western Nebraska, I got to travel 30 miles to go see Nicole Peralta. And I don't have the ability to do that. Not only that, but she hasn't returned my calls in well over a year. She was supposed to be working with me, but she never returned my calls. And then there's Jen Beebe from Region 1, and she was supposed to be working with me starting in December of 2019, and she literally never returned my calls until 7 or 8 months later. And by that time, I was able to get an autism advocate, but she's not able to be here in person. She's all the way over on the other end of the state. So she can't be here in person to look at the evidence. She can't nothing. And I can't defend myself or protect myself from these predators. I can't, when people say move on, I can't move on with my money taken up, with being forced into homelessness, with, when I leave here, I have to go out into the snow. It's freezing here in Nebraska. There's no shelters. And they want to keep pushing me into a homeless shelter. I can't go to a homeless shelter. I have electronics that are full of evidence. They will get stolen.
Yeah.
There's also the fact that I have sensory processing issues especially because of all of this. I can't go into a room full of that many people. I will have a meltdown immediately.
So have you heard of Google Photos? So you can take all of the evidence that's on your electronic devices and you can put it in a place on the internet.
We're working on that right now. That's the thing, is that I've been trying to, I have to be able to have a place that's safe for me to sit down and actually process all of that. I've been jumping around from one place to another trying to do that from local Starbucks all over the country. And I don't know how to do any of that electronic stuff. So I'm trying to work with people who are trying to help me over the phone, and most of them only in texting. And that's the worst form of communication. For me, when I'm in a state of crisis, the only way to teach me is to show me. Now, I was able to fumble through a lot of this stuff on my own, but there is just so much of it. I mean, there's over 8,000 screenshots just on this computer alone.
That would be what I would say to do, is to download that to a space that you are not afraid of being stolen. And then if you have all of that stuff into a place that you're not afraid of being stolen, then you can stay in a homeless shelter, because that fear of those devices being stolen.
I've been trying to do that. That's the thing, Anna, is that I've been attempting to do that for like 3.5 years. The lady who's helping me now, we're just now starting to get that stuff sort of done, but I am technologically inept. I have to have help with it. There's also the fact that my phones, not only will they not download those things to my computers, at least 2 of them, there's also the fact that the one that has the most evidence on it is now broken because of the assault by that child molester. And the thing is that I just need people to verify that I was telling the truth. And with a lot of these folks, like they're fears with their families, they're telling me about how, they're afraid for their families. And I'm like, hey, if you're afraid for your families, you need to speak up about that to the police. You need to do something about that. They're not going to take one from me. They call me mentally ill and literally won't do a thing to help me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think the problem is that for this evidence that you're talking about, you have to have somebody who has seen this or was there or knew about it.
And that's why I'm trying to show it. That's why I asked Kinga to speak up, even though it's just a small part. I told the truth, and I had to tell the truth. But I also needed the people that were there to actually verify it. Kinga was there. She was there. For when she sent me that money, it's not like it's some magic unicorn that sent me that $100. That was Kinga who sent me that $100, and that is just one of the hundreds of little bits and pieces of information that people have that they don't think is important, but all of it goes together to show that I was telling the truth every step of the way. There's also the fact that I've collected a lot of the evidence, but I don't have a place to sit down and process it because I don't have a safe environment of my own. All of my money has been eaten up by the courts. I lost my housing because of Natalie's death. I lost all of my money because of Natalie's death. It all went to paying the courts. And that's the thing, is that Clearview and Waylon Lolatai, those situations where they thought that I was guilty of a crime that I didn't commit, and because I was by myself, I was easy to victimize. And they kept on separating me from people who were there in person specifically to help me. And, I've had to go to meth addicts and alcoholics and people like that. Like, when I was in Virginia with Brett Roloff, he was strung out on meth. How is he going to help?
Yeah.
So, between asking people like that for help and asking somebody like Kinga for help, I'd rather ask somebody like Kinga for help. But Kinga was afraid of being deported.
I mean, I just don't really know I don't know what Kinga possibly could have really done for you other than say, yeah, I sent him $100. Like, I'm not sure, what type of evidence that she really has that could help you in a case against a police officer for assaulting you. Like, if she's not at
cases, ma'am, that's the thing, is that this has happened across the United States. They're trying to pretend that I invented all of these people, like Kinga didn't exist, like she was a figment of my imagination, and that Joanna Taylor was a figment of my imagination. And there's a lot of people that I went to for help before Natalie was killed that they're trying to pretend are figments of my imagination. And all of them, they do have legitimate reasons for being afraid, but at the same time, like, not so much. Kinga is a citizen of the United States. She is an actual citizen now. They can't deport her back to Hungary.
Yeah.
But that's what she was afraid of because it was the Trump administration. We don't have Trump in office anymore. She can speak up now, can't she?
I mean, well, once again, what could she possibly say that's going to help you in court other than that she's a real person? I mean, is there, like, who in court has said to you that they don't believe that these people are real, or how is Kinga involved in this case?
Well, the thing is that right before Natalie died, that money that Kinga sent me, that shows that I was telling the truth about that money. When I tried to send Natalie $400 to get her safe, I didn't know that she had a bullet in her head already. And one of that $100 that I was trying to send her, I got from Kinga. When I made that missing persons post about Natalie going missing, I included the fact, and I didn't use Kinga's name, but I said that a friend sent $100 so I could go see my therapist, and that I could send that to her, that I was going to send her $400, that it's all I had to try to get her someplace safe. Like, that was a true story. That $100 I got from Kinga.
Right, but that case has already been closed.
That's the thing, though, about that, is that I understand that Natalie's death has been closed. Her killer has been found, but the situation is that I told the truth every step of the way, and people just ignored the fact that I needed help in person. When I literally tried to kill myself over the abuse that I took in January at the hands of the police, and it was multiple police agencies who intimidated the people that I was staying with and threatened to have them and their kids thrown out in the snow. Like I didn't have a safe place to go, and people didn't understand. I needed a caseworker to help me with this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do understand that, but what I'm saying is that situation is over. At this point, there's nothing else that
it's not over. That's the thing, is that, all right, that situation isn't over because the situation in Virginia was that when I left there, they claimed that I stalked them there. And because they claimed that I stalked them there, those rumors, before I even got out of Virginia, were already coming back to me. It started off that I was a stalker, and then before I got out of Virginia, I got a hold of Maddie Boa, and Maddie Boa called me a creep, and because I got my vehicle stuck while dehydrated, that's not something that makes me an evil person. But then she said that Alicia told her that I threatened her and her family, and that's not the truth. And then when I got back to Boulder, I was being threatened, harassed, and assaulted. People were slapping my phone out of my hand. They were pushing me and shoving me. And the rumor went from I threatened Natalie and her family, or some girl in Virginia is what they were telling me. I heard you threatened some girl in Virginia. No, I didn't threaten anybody in Virginia. I had a meltdown. I had a meltdown over an extreme situation and a literal medical emergency, and I have the evidence of that. But the thing is that it wasn't just the fact that Natalie died, it's the fact that the slander that I had to endure for a whole year before she was killed, that slander went from I stalked them to Virginia to I had raped some girl in Virginia, and then I had molested some little girl in Virginia, and the stories just got more and more outlandish, and I took more and more abuse. It got to the point where I was literally going to see a therapist. Now, I can't go to see a therapist. I don't have a running vehicle. I don't have any money. I got nothing to be able to go do those things. And then there's the fact that like I said, I've been in the courts for the last 4 years over crimes that I literally did not commit.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, the rumors and all that followed you, but there's literally, I mean, you could go back to court and say, this didn't happen and prove it didn't happen, and people still aren't going to look into that. They're still not going to pay attention. They're still going to accuse you of whatever it is to accuse you of. That is just the nature of humans. They're not going to come to some, big realization that they were wrong. That's humanity. That's how people in human society act. And they don't have any remorse for their actions. And the fact of the matter is 50% of humanity are assholes.
Yep. Well, I'm an asshole now too. I have to be heard because nobody spoke up for me. I'm not allowed to speak for myself. That's the thing with the mentally ill tag, is that I don't have a guardian, and I need one. I don't have a caseworker who works with me. There was a lady who's apparently my caseworker. Her name's either Tara Smith or Tara Miller, and I don't have. Oh, I might have her phone number now. I hope I saved it in my phone. I was able to finally get my email hooked up to this phone, so that's how I got my contacts transferred over. That literally just happened like maybe an hour ago, and that's how I was able to get your phone number in order to call you.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yes, ma'am.
Caseworker's phone number now?
Do what?
So do you think you have your caseworker's phone number now?
I'm hoping so. I'm gonna check it just shortly.
Because that can be positive. You do need a caseworker. You're totally right about that. And I think you should get in contact with somebody, if you haven't already.
That's the thing, ma'am. I've tried this repeatedly. The problem is the lack of transportation and the lack of money prevents me from doing any of the things that they want me to do.
Your caseworker will come to you.
Yep, and she's supposed to come see me hopefully tomorrow, but I also have to try to talk to the state patrol tomorrow, and there are issues with that as well. So there's also issues with the fact that I don't have housing, and then there's the fact that those rumors, eventually by the time that Natalie died, like, I'd been repeatedly assaulted by those rumors over and over and over again. And when Natalie did die, that was all over the news, it was all over everything, you know. And then people continually here in Chapel, Nebraska especially, they don't care about the truth, they just want someone to take their BS out on. This is a terrible place to be, but I don't have anywhere else to go. I can't afford to keep on going and traveling to try to get the help that I need when I have to go to people like Brett, who was on meth, or I have to go to California where Shannon Alvarado was on alcohol. Like, you know, these are very loud screamers, and for somebody who has sensory processing issues, that's not going to help. There's also the fact that Brett was too screwed up on meth to do anything other than scream. So, I mean, how's he going to help me? And then with Shannon Alvarado, like, she got drunk every night. How is she going to help me? And these are the situations that I've been forced into because of the safety concerns that they just outright refuse to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to get this stuff figured out with the police and get this case closed. And I think you should talk to your caseworker about getting this case closed. And as soon as it's closed, I think you should never open another app, never open another messaging system that's about Natalie or anything to do with Natalie or anything.
Ma'am, that's the thing, is that this is beyond Natalie. People keep telling me, hey, Natalie's killer was found, as if that makes it stop. I can't see any of my loved ones, ma'am. I haven't been able to see my loved ones without being threatened, harassed, or assaulted, or having to fear that since over a year before she was killed. You know, it would have been great if I could have gone to Colorado and see Kinga and, you know, have an enjoyable time like we used to. But with all of this and the stress that it created for me, and then the amount of money that it cost, preventing me from being able to literally take care of myself, like, other people were helping me out with the financial situation, but they weren't speaking up. And then in the courts, and this is one of the things that you can literally verify, the courts were repeatedly saying that I wasn't trying to get help. I called people repeatedly for help, you know?
So what do you think the solution is?
The solution is that I need people to speak up. I need people to explain who I was. And then there's the situations that have happened in the last 4 years that they were involved in, no matter how small, you know, to at least explain, yeah, Sean has been trying to get help this whole time. He's been trying to jump through these hoops without any of the resources to do so, and he doesn't have the technical abilities. You know, that's the thing, is that they're taking advantage of my disabilities to get away with this, and I would rather get help than blow my head off, but I'm trying not to get so depressed that I do that. And I end up staying with a lot of people who have depression of their own, and a lot of people who they crave attention, you know. And then there's the sheer quantity of people who are infatuated with death, so they offer to help me, but then all they do is watch shows about death.
So what do you think is going to happen if people, you know, call the FBI or call the court system or that type of thing? Like, what is the result that you think is going to happen?
Nothing's going to happen in that case. They have to make the calls. It has to be more than one person. Like, when I needed to go in person, it needed to be myself and somebody else for my safety. Otherwise, they're gonna blow you off and pretend like it doesn't matter. The other thing is, with my technological inabilities, I'm doing my best to go through all this, but I'm in a constant state of panic. There's no possible way that I can right now I'm trying not to get up and pace all over the place, because then it's a bunch of clunk 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 and things like that. And it also hurts me to stand up, and it hurts me to sit down. My legs are constantly in pain, and I'm so overwhelmed that I can't function.
Okay, so a good thing to do would be to take this one step at a time and make a list, right, of the things that you need to have happen, and try to figure out how to accomplish that list, whatever that list may look like.
I've made the list, but it starts with people speaking up. It starts with people saying, hey, this is messed up, but they have to be able to see the evidence, which my technological ineptitude and the constant traveling has prevented. I mean, that's the thing, is that this is cruel and unusual punishment. When I was in Cheyenne, you talked to me while I was there. When I was in Virginia, you talked to me while I was there. Those are both situations that literally did happen. And if I try to tell the police that those things happened, they're going to pretend like you don't exist. There's also the fact that this was made very public, and people to this day keep doing messed up stuff to me. It got to the point where it wasn't just Natalie. The assault by Waylon Lolatai was over Natalie, but it was the assault by Lolatai. The situation at Clearview was an extension of that, but it was an assault at Clearview. And even though they dropped the thing with Waylon Lolatai, that allowed them to destroy evidence, and then the assault at Clearview prevented me from being able to have the money or the time or any of that to be able to do any of this. And I have to beg people for rides. I have since all of that issue happened. Now I was able to get my car running, and I ran around and did all of their court stuff, but they literally would not take a report. And that was August. Between when Natalie died in December and when I ultimately literally had to break the law to try to get somebody to take a look at it, that was August. That was 11 months after Natalie was killed. And the whole time I'm trying to get help, and they're claiming that I'm not trying to get help. And they wrote that down in my paperwork, and that simply is not the case. I was trying to get help every step of the way. But by not allowing me access to the evidence, not looking at the evidence, outright refusing to look at the evidence, refusing to allow me to this is the most incredibly complicated situation in the history of mankind, it seems like.
I mean, it seems like they did look at the evidence and they caught Natalie's killer from the
No. We're not talking about just the evidence. So you keep going back to just the Natalie case. All of this is the dominoes from Natalie's case that I am still dealing with in court. The dominoes from Natalie's case, the people who assumed my guilt and decided that it was okay to physically harm me. And also there's the fact that Natalie's friends and family and a bunch of nutty wingnuts literally, kept up the antics until they were allowed, and they did conspire with the police to make this happen. And the only way that they got away with it is because nobody went in with me. And they keep saying that I wasn't trying to get help, but most of these people who offered to go in with me, they didn't have the time. They had to worry about their families. They had to worry about their money, and all of my money being tied up in court prevented me from doing that. The assault by Waylon Lolatai.
Anyways, to be honest with you, I don't think that having additional people there or saying that they have seen the evidence, the person who needs to see the evidence is the judge. It's the court, right? Like anybody else seeing that.
But they won't look at it. The police have to go through it first, and the police won't look at it. Everything that I try to show them, and I tried to explain this to all of the people who wrote letters for me, all of the people who wrote down on pieces of paper about their instance. I tried to explain to them they're not going to listen to it unless you go in with me in person. They're going to pretend that I made that up. And that's the thing with Kinga, is that I tried showing that evidence, and they said, well, how do we know that you didn't make that up? How do we know that you didn't manufacture that? Things like that. Every time that I try to show this stuff. So I need somebody to sit down and look at it all with me, and with everything all tied up, that's almost impossible. The next possibility is for the people with each individual piece of the story that I told to come forward and admit that I told the truth about at least that piece of the story. The police weren't going to look at anything that I said unless someone went in with me. If I try to show them what Kinga said, that's not going to work unless Kinga admits it.
Right, but that's still just what Kinga knows, not what you know.
Well, what Kinga knows is a small part of the story, a very small part, but that small part is the truth, and she knows it. And this is all stuff where they were trying to peg me as mentally ill in order to pretend that all of this evidence is fake and I made it all up. And I didn't have the abilities technically to even show any of that at the time, except to walk in with my phone and say, hey, look at what I'm showing you. Look at the messages, call these people. But they weren't going to do that unless someone went in with me. So when I had to go in alone, I got harmed over and over again. When I was homeless in Boulder, right after Natalie died, her death literally made me homeless. And then because of everything that was all over the news, it was literally like a week and a half of being in one abusive situation after another, after another, after another. And I am, at that point in time, I'm literally at the end of my rope. I want to blow my head off at that point, and I have no way to do it. I'm homeless in Boulder, Colorado. It is freezing out. I've got homeless people who are beating each other up over whether or not I killed Natalie. And that's the thing, is that this situation, a lot of people keep going back to the Natalie thing. Everybody I try to explain it to, they're like, well, Natalie's killer was caught. I know, I'm not retarded. I've paid attention to everything that's been going on because it is my life. It's not like I was having an out-of-body experience when they found Natalie's killer. They didn't announce that they found Natalie's killer on the news until February 9th of 2018. But Jai Rogers and Detective Peterson called me on February 8th of 2018, the day before, to tell me that they found Natalie's killer. So I was able to make the announcement a day before the news did. I got to let you go, Anna, because I really need to use the bathroom. Is there a time later I might be able to call you?
Yeah, I have today off, so I should be available later.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. I hope that you get to doing better and that you can kind of find somebody who can, your caseworker, somebody to help you out and get you on a better track as far as just, where to focus your energy.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
That's the thing, is I would like to focus my energy on having a decent life and seeing my loved ones.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope that you can, get to that place.
Yes, ma'am. Be safe. Goodbye.
You too. Bye.
Oh my God, I do have to pee. All right, there's probably a bunch of assholes on here that typed a bunch of ignorant shit, but I don't know. See, Amanda Riley, Sean, she is confused on what you need. Try to stick to what you need. Don't keep jumping around. I know it's hard. That's the problem. I do have to pee though. I'm sorry. Goodbye. Be safe. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Fucking end, please. Oh my God.